Well, we're certainly living in very challenging times. We're seeing so many scary, unexpected, shocking events. Brexit, Donald Trump, Leicester City winning the Premiership. These are all inexplicable things which we have to cope with. And I want to spend a few moments at a generic level talking about leading change in this kind of environment. How can you lead change? How can you lead innovation in such uncertain times? And there are a number of global principles that I think apply. I'd like to talk through one or two of those with you. And the first really is the importance of innovation. And I don't really need to sell you on this. You're all into innovation. But why is innovation so important? Well, it's not just a matter of competitive advantage. It's a matter of survival. The main benefit of innovation for your organization is not competitive advantage. It's will you survive or not? And you know this. So how can you do it? And an important principle here to understand is that leadership and innovation live in the same house. A leader always is an innovator. A leader always takes an organization from where it is today to somewhere different. If what you're doing is making the current model work better, improving efficiency, improving customer service, removing problems, you're not a leader. You're a manager. You're a steward. You're making things work better. A leader always changes an organization, and a leader always takes it somewhere different. And how can you do that? How can you lead innovation? Well, I'm going to take you through one or two precepts. And the first is this. It all starts with a vision. The leader has to have a vision for change, which he or she communicates to the team. And the purpose of the leader is to set a purpose for the team. To say, we're here today, we've done really well, but in 2 years' time, we're going to be somewhere different. And the vision is to be the leading supplier of battery recycling, or to have the very best software for robotic race cars, or whatever it is. Though it's much better to define it in terms of a customer problem that you're going to solve rather than a technology that you're going to advance. Because technology is only a means to an end. We tend to get obsessed with technology, and that can lead to great innovations, but technology is only useful if it's actually solving a problem. So becoming the world leader in thorium is not going to help anymore, I guess, from what we've just heard. So the leader's job is to set that destination. But any leader that thinks he or she has all the answers is deluding themselves. You may have a very, very clear goal. Here's where we want to get to. And you should be religious about the goal. But you should be agnostic about how you get there. Because there are many different routes. Although your job is to set the destination, here's where we're headed, I think the best way to do it is to let your team choose the route. Say there may be many ways up this mountain. We're going to try different things. If we come to something that blocks us, we're prepared to change and go round. I'm not religious about how we get there. I'm just religious about getting to the top. You know, when Kennedy set his great vision before the decade is out, we'll land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. He had no idea how they'd do it. And neither did the team he appointed. He just got a bunch of really bright people together and said, this is the challenge. And that's the point. You can set a great goal, and if you've got great people, they're smart people will find a way. And what they did is incredible. Who's seen the film First Man? Have you seen that? It's an amazing film, isn't it? About Neil Armstrong. So the first thing is the vision. The second thing I would say is your job as a leader is to challenge assumptions. All the assumptions that apply in your industry might just be wrong. I mean, you think you know what electric vehicles are going to look like in 10 years' time. You think you know what driverless vehicles are going to look like. You might be completely wrong. And it's time and time again. And your job as a leader is to be very, very curious, very open-minded, and to be prepared to challenge assumptions. And certainly to be prepared to break all the rules that apply in your industry, all the conventions. Mark Twain said this. He said, what gets us into trouble is not what we don't know. It's what we think we know for sure. The things you think you know for sure are the most dangerous things you know, because you don't question them. You're certain about them. The things you're not sure about are the things you're open-minded. You're prepared to listen to different viewpoints. You know, the captain of the Titanic was certain he was going to get across the Atlantic in record time, and he charged ahead. And we make assumptions all the time, and your job is to challenge assumptions and encourage your team to challenge assumptions. Here's a nice picture of a tiger. There's another tiger here. Can you see the second tiger? Can you see the hidden tiger? Nice picture of a tiger. Who can see the second tiger? You can. Very good, sir. Very good. I'll just give you a moment while I have a sip of water. And the reason you're struggling to see the second tiger is because I said there's a picture of a tiger and there's a second tiger and you're looking for another picture. And it's not a picture. The second tiger is hidden here in the words of the stripes. The hidden tiger. But the assumptions we make as we approach the problem limit our ability to solve the problem. So challenging assumptions is really important. I mean, a lot of the things that used to be true are no longer true. When I started driving a car, I was told, don't turn off the engine and restart it. It'll wear out the starter engine. Do you remember that? Who remembers that, being told that? You can't drive on the hard shoulder, all right, because if you block it, the ambulances can't. Now, they use the hard shoulder all the time. And then the traffic management, you slow down in order to speed up traffic flow. All things that are a bit counterintuitive. Things that were true are no longer true. And your job is to challenge those conventions. And how do you do that? You do that by asking questions. Your job as a leader, as an innovator, is to keep asking questions. Keep asking basic questions, fundamental questions. The day you joined the company you work for, you asked a whole bunch of stupid questions. Why do we do this? What's the purpose of this? What's the value added here? Chances are you've stopped asking those questions. This is the way we do things around here. But great innovators are always asking questions, always challenging things. And questions are really important. And one of the things I advise people is this. If you want to think of something that nobody else thinks of, ask a question that nobody else asks. A different question will elicit a different answer. And by the way, the wrong answer is the right answer to a different question. So if you want to think what nobody else thinks, ask a question that nobody else asks. So a big problem in the third world, in the developing world, is that babies die because of a lack of incubators. In hospitals in Congo and Sudan and all these places, they don't have enough incubators that work, and babies are born prematurely, underweight, they die. And a lot of incubators are donated to these places, but because they don't have spare parts, they don't have any qualified engineers, if the incubator breaks down, that's it, like a lot of equipment. That's the problem. What's the question? Well, the question there's very many questions you could start out with. Whenever you're starting a problem, you start out with a question. The question might be, how can we build a reliable incubator? How can we train people to maintain incubators? How can we have spare parts available? A man called Tim Prestero of a design company called Design That Matters asked a different question. He asked this question. What equipment is maintained in Africa? What equipment survives under African and third world conditions where there's not much support? And what is always maintained? And when he asked that question, the answer he got was Toyotas. And Toyota trucks in particular. Every town in Africa, Toyota trucks crisscross Africa. Every town has a garage for Toyotas, and he's got a mechanic trained in Toyota repairs. So what did he do? He designed an incubator made entirely out of Toyota spares. Apart from the frame, everything else is a Toyota spare part. You know, the heater is the headlamp and the indicator, everything else. And when it breaks down, they call up the local garage. All right? Can you send out the mechanic to fix our incubator? So a different question gives you a different approach, gives you a different idea. Keep asking different questions. There were two postgraduate students at Stanford University called Larry Page and Sergey Brin. They've both been rejected by MIT, incidentally, much to MIT's chagrin. And they were working on a research project. How can we rank pages on the internet? And at that time, 1996, you could see how many links went out from a page, but you couldn't see how many came in. And they came up with this idea that, and a piece of academic research, the more references that came into it, the more respected it was. Could we do the same with web pages? And Larry Page asked this famous question: what if we downloaded the entire internet, everything on the internet, into our server, and then we analysed it, and then we could see all the links that come into any page? And he asked his supervisor, can I do this? Can I use the Stanford University to download the entire... At the time, there were 10 million websites and 1 billion links. It's much smaller than today, but it's still huge. And it was changing every day. And his supervisor said, yeah, why not? Try it. And they crashed the server several times. They absorbed nearly all the bandwidth on the Stanford University site, but they downloaded the entire internet. And then they analysed it. And then they found they could rank which pages were more important. And then they discovered along the way that invented the world's best search engine. They didn't realize it at first. And they tried to sell it, by the way, to Yahoo and Lycos and Alta Vista for $100,000, or what, so something less than $1 million. And they were turned down. Those guys thought that portals were more important and content than search. And so they founded their own company, Google, by asking a different, what if we downloaded the whole internet? So it's about asking searching questions. Another thing to do is to deliberately take a different point of view. If everyone else is coming at it from this direction, come at it from a different direction. This is what innovators do all the time. We see time and time again examples of this. This man, Giorgio Don, is an Argentinian car mechanic who invented a remarkable device. He was having a discussion over dinner with one of his friends, and one friend said, I've seen this video that shows you how to get a cork out of a bottle. It's on YouTube if you search for it. The guy pushes the cork in the bottle and he says, I'll get it out. And he wins a bet. All right, I'll show you. And people don't believe he can do it. And he does it by, he puts a plastic bag into the bottle, and then he shakes the cork and it rests in there, and then he inflates the bottle, the plastic bag, and he pulls on it. And it works. The cork comes out of the bottle. It's remarkable. And Giorgio Don went to bed that night, and he woke up in the middle of the night with a brainwave, and he thought, the problem of getting a cork out of a bottle is just like the problem of getting a baby out of the birth canal of a woman. When the baby's stuck, when the head is stuck, it's just like pulling. How do you get a cork out of a bottle? How do you get a baby out of the birth canal? And he came up with his invention, which is based on exactly this principle of putting a plastic sheath around the head of the baby, inflating it slightly, and then pulling the baby out. And it's been adopted by the World Health Organization. And the point about the story is this, that doctors and clinicians, physicians, would never have thought of this. He approached the problem from the point of view of a car mechanic. He approached the problem as though it was a mechanical engineering problem, not a medical problem. Childbirth is a mechanical engineering problem. So let's use a mechanical engineering solution. And that's what great inventors do. They use different approaches. Another thing I would say is this, look outside for ideas. Deliberately look outside your field. The smartest people in your field are not working for your company. The Catapult Centre in Wales might have some great people on compound semiconductors, but there's lots more outside. You've got to watch what's happening outside. You've got to pinch ideas from outside wherever you see them and bring them in and be open to those ideas. This is Martin Cooper, the inventor of the mobile phone. He worked for Motorola in the 1970s. This is his first mobile phone that he invented. Where did he get the idea for the mobile phone? According to his memoirs, he got it because he watched an episode of Star Trek. And it was a clamshell. It's the 1960s, they had a clamshell. And in fact, there's quite a number of things that first appeared on Star Trek which have now been developed. And he invented the first mobile phone, working for Motorola, the big rival for AT&T. He called a press conference. He called all of the journalists in to show it. And he made the world's first mobile phone call. And he called the director of development at AT&T and said, we've done it, and you haven't. Lots of other stories about him. So deliberately take a different point of view and deliberately look outside. What else would I say? I would say experiment. Experiment. You know this. Try lots of things. And the key thing here is what's the concept of the minimum viable product. And the minimum viable product is a very fashionable concept in innovation today. And what this is you don't try and build the perfect solution. You build the smallest, crappiest working version that you can, and then you show it to customers, leading customers, confidential customers, and you say, is this what you want? And inevitably they say, we like this, but we don't like it. You've got this completely wrong. But unless you show it to them, you don't know that. It's a wireframe, it's a mock-up, it's a number of screenshots, it's something. And the purpose of your minimum viable product is not fast payback, it's fast feedback. That's what you're looking for. And that's what Segway didn't get. They developed the Segway completely in isolation. They didn't show anybody what it was, and they launched it. They expected to transform transportation because of the Segway. It didn't work because they hadn't shown anyone. They made some fundamental design flaws, which they could easily have corrected if they tested it earlier. But they were so obsessed about keeping their IP secret that they wouldn't share it. And that's not the best way. So the approach is ready, fire, aim. As soon as you're ready, you fire. And then you adjust your aim. Next shot, get it right. Eventually, software companies have been doing it for years. You launch the product in beta, all right? It's not finished. We'll let the first customers debug it finally. Because you can't test it under every possible circumstance. And if you wait long enough, you've missed the opportunity. So you launch it when it's 90% ready. And then you You cope. All right. The next slide, I would say, you know this. Fail often and fail cheap. You've got to try different things, and most of the things you try will fail. If everything you try succeeds, you're not being bold enough. They say if every time you throw the dart, you hit the bullseye, you're standing too close to the dartboard. Right? You've got to back away. You've got to miss a few times. You know, why does Roger Federer serve double faults? He doesn't need to. He could get his second serve in very easily, every time, very safely, if he just patted it across the net like one of my serves. But he knows that's not worth doing. He's pushing his second serve as hard as he can to make it difficult for his opponent. And he's prepared to accept a certain number of double faults. If you watch Roger Federer or Novak Djokovic in a 5-set match, they'll probably serve 6, 7 double faults, and that's acceptable. There's an optimum number of double faults you should serve in a tennis match, and it's not 0. There's an optimum number of failures you should have every month, and it's not 0. If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. So the message for you is this. Your job as a leader is not to minimize risk. Your job is to manage risk. Right? And the motto, the innovator's motto is this: I succeed or I learn, but I never fail. Every time something doesn't work, I've learned something. I'm moving on. And I've got a little video about this, I think. And the point about the story is you can't protect yourself from all risk. If you're in the game, you're at risk. If you're in business, you're at risk. If you're in high tech, you're at risk. So you can't avoid risk. You've got to play for it. You've got to manage it. And you've got to cope with it. And what you don't want to do is make such a big bet that you bet the whole organization on one bet. You want lots of small bets if you can. It's not always possible to do that. Sometimes you have to place a really big bet. But ideally, you should be placing lots of small bets all the time. So to summarize, as a leader of innovation in difficult times, your job is to set the destination, set the goal, paint the vision, and sell people on the vision. The reason we're working in this organization is because we want to develop the best technology to solve these kinds of customers' problems. And we need your help. We need your ideas. We need your input to get there. We don't know exactly how to get there, but that's where we're going to get in 2 to 3 years' time. And to challenge all the assumptions, to keep challenging, to keep saying, what if the opposite were true? What if the exact opposite were true? Ask searching questions, the very, very basic questions. Why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this? What's the value added here? What does the customer get out of this? Is there a better way to do what we're currently doing? The answer to that question is always yes. There's always a better way. We ain't found it yet. Take a different point of view. Deliberately come at the problem from a different standpoint. If everyone's coming at it this way, come at it this way. If everyone else is thinking like a doctor, think like a mechanical engineer. If everyone else is thinking like a mechanical engineer, think like a doctor. Look outside. Open innovation, crowdsourcing, challenges, getting other people to solve your problems is very, very fashionable now in innovation. Collaboration and encouraging technology transfer. You know about this. Experiment, be constantly curious, constantly trying new things, and try lots of things that fail. And manage risk. Have an attitude that says, it's okay to fail. The innovative leader's motto is this: we celebrate success, we learn from failure, and we punish inaction. That's the thing is intolerable. The guy who sat on a problem for 6 months and done nothing about it. That's what's not. The guy who's tried lots of different things and failed and shared the results, that's okay. We learn from failure. We celebrate success. We learn from failure. We punish inaction. And one final thing I'll say, what's impeding innovation in your organization today? What's stopping things, new ideas coming up and being tried? It might just be you. Because smart people, every day of the week, find fault with other people's ideas. It's what De Bono calls the intelligence trap. The smarter you are, the easier it is to find fault with other people. I'll tell you why that won't work. You know, we tried that 2 years ago. Customer will never go for that. Don't waste your time. It's very easy. Very, very easy, if you're smart and you're the boss, to kill other... And they stop coming to you with ideas if you keep doing that. So when they come to you with a crazy idea, say, how would it work? Tell me more. What's the value added here? The flow of ideas is the lifeblood of innovation in your organization. Don't be the clot that prevents the flow of those ideas. I'd like to wish you all good luck and great success. Thank you.